Good evening, everybody. We'll be starting soon. I just wanted to let you know that you have to try your audio channel. Before we begin, just a quick note. Please make sure you have selected your preferred audio channel on the Zoom's toolbar. Just like it says in the picture, you may choose the English or Portuguese audio channel depending on your preference. We will give everyone a few more moments to join, and the webinar will start shortly. Good evening, everybody. So we are starting right now. Welcome to the Brazil Regulatory Updates, a webinar hosted by PFI, Pet Food Institute. My name is Giovana Oliveira. I'll be talking a little bit, just introducing the subject, but I'm a consultant in Brazil for PFI through River Global. On behalf of PFI, I would like to warmly thank you all for joining us today. It's a pleasure to welcome so many professionals interested in understanding the latest regulatory updates and importing pet food and related products into Brazil. Before we start, I would like to let you know that this event is being recorded and the recording will be made available to all participants afterwards. I would also like to thank our speakers and partners for joining us today, Bruno Capucci, Dana Waters, Andrea Furuta, and Guilherme Chabuin, who will moderate our final Q&A session. I also wanted to thank the entire team involved in organizing this webinar and making today's discussion possible. Okay, we'll be talking about important updates regarding Brazil's import requirements for pet food, treats, snacks, supplements, additives, ingredients, and other products intended for animal feed. We will begin with a brief introduction from Cindy Rações. So let me bring it up here. Then follow up by an overview from Pet Food Institute with Dana Waters. Then we'll move on into the main technical presentation with Andrea Furuta. And at the end, we will have a Q&A section moderated by Guilherme. To start our session, I would like to give the floor to Bruno Capucci, Regulatory and Quality Affairs Coordinator at the Brazilian Feed Industry Association, Cindy Rações. Bruno is a veterinarian with more than 16 years of experience in the animal feed sector, with a strong expertise in regulatory affairs and quality. He has extensive experience working with governmental agencies in Brazil, Latin America, and internationally, and has actively participated in national and international trade associations meeting and working with groups focused on livestock and pet food regulatory environment. Today, Bruno will briefly introduce Cindy Rações and share some initial context with us. Bruno, thank you very much for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. As Giovana introduced me, I'm Bruno Capucci, and I've been working at the Brazilian Feed Industry Association for 17 years. This association is the equivalent of the AFA in the US, the Animal Feed Association. The association has celebrated 72 years, and we have more than 140 members, so pet food companies, and also companies that integrate pork and chicken. We also have companies that import additives, that manufacture premix, and also the complete feed for different types of animals, including horses, experimental animals, pets, and also uh, producing animals. We have been working very strongly and closely with the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture, both for meeting the domestic market, import and exports. So, and the ministry is often called MAPA, and I'm also the regulatory coordinator of the International Association of Animal Feed and the Animal Feed Federation. So I also play this role internationally. And I've been now occupying this role for the last 2 years, and now that role was extended for 2 more years. I represent Brazil, and we also work with the Latin American Pet Feed Association, and the goal is really to support this industry. I'm available to answer potential questions and to also support you. So at the end, I'll share my contact information. So please do get in touch if you have any questions about the Brazilian and Latin America regulations for exporting your products to our countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruno. It's very important to begin with this institutional perspective, especially considering the role of Sindicações in strengthening the industry and following up with topics that directly impact in manufacturers, suppliers, importers, and other professionals across the pet food chain. Bruno will be back with us at the end for the Q&A question. Before we continue, I would like to invite everyone to participate in a quick poll. The poll will appear on your screen shortly, and your answers help us to better understand who is joining us today. So you should be seeing the poll already. We would like to understand if you already export to Brazil or if you are interested in starting to begin to. And I'll give you a few more seconds, like half a minute, for everybody who is here to answer to us. Thank you all for participating. It's very important for us, as I was saying. I will give everyone a few more moments to respond, a couple more seconds. Thank you very much. Can you please end the poll? Thank you. Let's keep going. I want to call now Dana. Thank you all for participating in the poll. Continuing here. So I would like to call Dana Waters, Director of International Affairs at the Pet Food Institute. Dana works in the international affairs and support PFI engagement on trade and regulatory issues that impact U.S. pet food and exports. But you might know her already better than us. Dana, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys. So, yeah, again, huge and big shout out to River and to all of our guest speakers today. We're very excited to have everybody here and to give this long-awaited update on the Brazilian regulatory requirements that were updated several months ago now. This program is through our USDA marketing program. So we're participants for Brazil in two, so it's the Market Access Program and the Regional Agricultural Promotion Program. The RAP, as we call it, because we're in DC and we love acronyms, the RAP is really what enables us to do this regulatory analysis. So we're very happy that we're able to use that money to bring you this kind of information, since we know that having regulatory expertise outside of just, the tip of the iceberg of what PFI staff can provide is really helpful for you guys, and to have this be available not just to members, but also to the wider U.S. pet food manufacturing public, as it were. So we're very excited to bring this to you today. And if you have any questions about how to get started exporting to Brazil from the U.S., please let us know. We're happy to connect you with River, with Gio, with Guy, and the team there. So we're happy to facilitate anything like this. If you'll recall, we did a reverse trade mission with some buyers from Brazil to Global Pet Expo this year. That was very successful. We had lots of meetings. I felt kind of bad because everybody was running around all over the place trying to get from meeting to meeting, but it was all good in the end. And we'll definitely be doing those more in the future. So please stay tuned for that. And we'll have just a couple of other things at the end of this webinar that don't necessarily have to do with the regulatory update. So please stick around for that. But I think that's it if we want to go ahead and jump right into it. So thank you guys all for being here too.
Thank you, Dana. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for sharing PFI's perspective. I now would like to move into our main presentation of today's webinar, which is the Brazil Regulatory Update. It's a pleasure to welcome Andrea Furuta, Regulatory Affairs Consultant, who will walk us through the key updates regarding Brazil's import requirements for pet food, treats, snacks, supplements, additives, ingredients, and other products intended for animal feed. Before we proceed, please double check your audio channel because the presentation will be given in Portuguese and we wouldn't like for you to lose any details. We have here available an expert team of translator helping us do this task. Now moving forward with Andrea's biography. Andrea has extensive experience in regulatory affairs for the pet food sector and supports, just 1 second, sorry. Sorry, guys. A few problems. Okay, so Andrea has extensive experience in regulatory affairs for the pet food sector and support companies and professionals in understanding regulatory requirements, good manufacturing practices, labeling, product registration, and other essential topics for this market. Her presentation today will cover a few different points, such as foreign establishment registration, product registration and licensing, required documentation, labeling, sanitary certificates, and the transition period. Andrea, thank you very much for being here with us today. The floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the invitation. So today we'll be talking about the changes in the Brazilian legislation, especially regarding product import. So these changes apply to all types of products, full foods, treats, additives, supplements, chewables, ingredients, also fats and meals from animal meals. Brazil has gone through a huge change that was published in 2024. Shall I continue, she says?
So sorry, Andrea, I'll just kick off. I think our cell phone is on the call too. There are two names, two speakers from you. I'll kick the other one out, so it's echoing. Okay.
O que eu preciso fazer?
What should I do? She says.
Acho que agora tudo certo. Sorry, everything's all right now. You can go. Sorry.
Posso continuar? Tá.
Okay.
O Brasil ele
So
passou por grandes
Brazil
alterações,
has had major changes with the publication with Decree
e com isso,
12,031 in
as empresas
2024.
estrangeiras, elas
Therefore,
passaram a ter a
foreign companies
obrigatoriedade
now
de fazer o seu registro
have
junto ao Ministério da
to
Agricultura.
follow the
Então, no
registration
próximo
with the
slide, eu vou
Ministry of
mostrar uma
Agriculture.
visão
In the
geral
next slide, I will show
como
you an
funcionava
overview
antes,
of
como
how
está
it
funcionando
used
durante
to
esse período de
work, how
transição
it
e
is
como que vai
working now
funcionar
in the
depois,
transition period, and
a
how
partir
it's
de julho
going
de
to work
2030.
after
Então,
July
antes da
of
publicação do decreto
2030. So before
2031,
the
como que
publication of
funcionava? Se
Decree
uma empresa ela tinha interesse em querer
12,031, if
exportar
a
os seus produtos
company
para o Brasil,
wished to
ela
export
entrava em
its products
contato com
to
a empresa
Brazil,
brasileira,
it
essa
would
empresa
contact a
brasileira ela
Brazilian company. The
obrigatoriamente tinha que ter
Brazilian
o registro do
company would
estabelecimento
have to
importador
have
e ela
the
recebia todos
registration
os
of the
documentos de
importer
registro ou
establishment, and
cadastro dos
then it
produtos,
would
fazia
receive
essa
all the
apresentação ao
registration, all
Ministério da
the
Agricultura
register of the products.
e ela
They
obtinha
would
esse certificado de
request that from
registro.
the
Então,
Ministry of
com isso,
Agriculture and would get
se uma
the
empresa estrangeira ela
certification
tinha
for
interesse em
registration.
exportar
So
para
if a
cinco
foreign
diferentes
company
empresas
wished
brasileiras,
to
ela
export to
precisava
5
mandar
different
esse
Brazilian
dossiê para
companies,
essas cinco
this type
empresas.
of
Então, esse
documents had
processo
to
se
be
repetia
sent to
várias
all of
vezes.
these companies. So the process would be
Em 28
repeated
de maio de
several times.
2024, foi publicado o decreto
In
12.031.
May
Então,
28,
passou a vigorar no dia 8 de
2024,
julho de
the decree was
2024.
published, so
Com essa
it
publicação,
became
nós tivemos aí mais
then
alteração
valid
de que os estabelecimentos
in
estrangeiros passaram
July.
a fazer o seu
So
registro de estabelecimento
then
junto ao Ministério da Agricultura e com isso
the
eles
companies
realizavam o
had
registro
to
ou cadastro
apply,
dos produtos
and then they could
diretamente no sistema
register
do
the
Ministério da
products
Agricultura.
directly in the
Dessa
Ministry of
forma, não era
Agriculture
mais
website.
necessário você
That
fazer o
way,
registro
they
várias
no
vezes
longer
para os produtos.
needed to
Então, você
repeat the
registra ou
registration for
cadastra o seu
products.
produto
So
uma
you're
única
going
vez
to
e você
register
pode comercializar
your
para
product, you're
quantos
going to
clientes
record your
brasileiros
product
você
just
tiver
once, and
interesse.
then you can send that to as
Nós
many
vamos ter
Brazilian
esse período de
clients as you
transição.
wish.
Então,
We
entre
are going
8
to
de
have
julho
a
de
transition
2025
period
até 8 de julho de
between July
2030, a gente
8,
vai ter os dois
2025
sistemas
up to
funcionando.
July 8,
Ou
2030.
seja,
Both
as
systems will
empresas que
be
já
working.
exportavam para o
That is,
Brasil, elas
companies
vão
that were
continuar
already
podendo
exporting to
exportar
Brazil, they
com
will
o
keep on
certificado
exporting
de
with
produto,
a
de
product
certificado de registro de
certificate
produto ou
or
certificado de
a
cadastro
product registration
antigo, tá?
uh,
Então, se você já
or
exportava e tem
a
clientes aqui no
former
Brasil, você continua
product
exportando esses produtos para
record,
esses clientes.
so you can
Se você tiver
continue
interesse em novos
exporting
clientes
products
ou
to these
novos
clients. But if
produtos,
you're
aí
interested to
você
new
não
clients or new
consegue, tá?
products,
Porque a
then
partir
you
de
won't
8
be
de
able
julho
to
de
do it because
2025, foi
starting
proibido, né? Não
July
foi mais
8,
permitido
2025,
que
it is no
novas
longer
empresas
allowed that
se
new
registrassem
companies
como
would
estabelecimento importador
register
e
as an
também não
importer
foi permitido que
establishment. And
essas
also, it was not
empresas
allowed that
registrassem
these
ou
companies
cadastrassem novos produtos,
would
tá?
license new
E a
products
partir de
or
8 de julho de 2005
record
também,
new products. And
2025,
also,
desculpa,
starting in
começou o
July
registro
of
dos
2025,
estabelecimentos
we
estrangeiros.
also
Então,
started
quem nunca exportou para o
registering,
Brasil e tem
licensing a
interesse em iniciar essa
foreign
exportação,
establishment. So
então
if you never
obrigatoriamente já
exported to
se
Brazil and
encaixa
want
nessa
to
nova
do so,
legislação.
now
Faz
you
o registro do
already fit
estabelecimento
in
junto ao
to
Ministério
this
da
new
Agricultura e
legislation.
depois
So
faz o
you can
registro ou cadastro dos
first
produtos
license
junto à MAPA.
yourself with the Ministry of Agriculture
Isso
and
funciona de
then
8 de julho de
license the
2025
products.
até
That's
8 de
going to
julho de
work
2030.
from July
A
8,
partir de 8 de
2025 up
julho de
to July 8,
2030,
2030.
todas as
Starting
empresas
July 8,
elas vão estar no
2030,
sistema novo, ou
all
seja,
companies will
todas as
be in
empresas
the new
estrangeiras devem
system.
ter o registro de
All
estabelecimento junto ao
foreign
Ministério da
companies will
Agricultura
have
e
to
o
have
registro e
that
cadastro dos
license with
produtos
the
também
Ministry of
diretamente
Agriculture,
no
and
sistema do
also all
Ministério da
products will
Agricultura.
be
Por
should
que
be
isso?
licensed
Porque a
with the
partir dessa
Ministry of
data,
Agriculture,
o
because
registro do
after
estabelecimento
that
importador
date,
e o registro e
the
cadastro dos
license of
produtos
the importing
antigos
uh,
no sistema antigo,
establishment and
eles
the
serão
prior
cancelados. Então,
records
se
will be
chegar alguma
canceled.
carga, algum
So if
embarque
there is
com a documentação
a new
antiga, ela vai
shipment
ser
with a prior
devolvida ou então
documentation, that's
destruída.
going to be returned
Fica
or it's
claro
going to
como
be
funcionava
destroyed.
antes essa transição
Did you
e como vai
understand how it
funcionar a
used
partir
to
de
work
8 de julho
before
de
this transition
2030?
and how it's going to work after
Tem alguma
July 8th,
dúvida? Porque agora
2030?
eu
Do
já
you
vou
have any
passar
questions
direto
so far? Because now
para esse
I'm going to
procedimento
go
novo. Então,
straight
como que vai
to the new
funcionar o registro do
procedure.
estabelecimento
So
de acordo com essa nova
this is
legislação
how
e como
it's
que vai
going to
funcionar
work, the
o registro e
establishment
cadastro dos produtos de
registration,
acordo com a
and
nova
also the
legislação.
registration of products according to the new legislation.
Podemos? Então, por
So,
favor.
so
Então, o primeiro passo é o registro de estabelecimento
first step,
estrangeiro.
the
Como ele
foreign
se registrou o
establishment
estabelecimento, ele necessita de
registration.
registro. Então, se o
How
seu
do I know
estabelecimento ele
that it
fizer qualquer
needs
manipulação
registration. If it handles product, if it is a manufacturer, if it is a fractioner, if there is just a mix, or if they just package the product, if there's any type of handling about that product, it is mandatory to register it. to license it with the Ministry of Agriculture. If your factory or your establishment just stores it before being exported, it is exempt for registration. And if it is just storage, it is actually just storage. You cannot package, you cannot fraction it, you cannot even mix it, just storage. So then your establishment is free of registration. So which are the documents and the procedures for this stage? The documents are the certificate of establishment registration. This has to be issued by the authority of the country of origin. Also, it should be sent in an Excel spreadsheet, which will have the basic information. This is a template that the Ministry of Agriculture has. It has the basic information about the establishment, the name, the address, which are the products that it is manufacturing and it's going to export, the registration number, basic information regarding the establishment. And also the Good Manufacturing Practices Certificate. That also should be issued by the authority of the country of origin. It cannot be issued by an outsourced company, a private company. And what are the procedures then? Okay, to register establishment, it's something that is done from one government to another. So we are going to be sending these 3 documents. That's going to be sent to the US government, which in turn is going to send to the Ministry of Agriculture in Brazil. Then these documents will be analyzed and therefore they are going to be published in the Ministry of Agriculture website. Once you have your establishment registration approved, it doesn't have a specific expiration date. I mean, it will be valid indefinitely as long as all information is updated on the system. Also, this is done from one government to another. So if there are any changes in your establishment, you need to communicate the government in the US, which in turn will communicate the Ministry of Agriculture and will update the Ministry of Agriculture. Also important to mention that the establishment registration is valid per unit. If you have a manufacturing unit and you have a branch, you need to have 2 different establishment registrations. So now here we have the link, and with this link you can access all the companies that are currently registered in the Ministry of Agriculture. Here we have companies that are registered and companies that are enabled to export. And you have information there from the US and other countries. So if you want to check which companies are enabled or which are the products that are enabled and are licensed, you can see that. You can check on this website. Up to today, we had around 40 companies in the US already registered in the Ministry of Agriculture. Remember, this information always need to be updated in the system of the Ministry of Agriculture so you don't have any problems when your cargo gets to Brazil. Once you have the establishment registration done, we will start registering or licensing products. When is it going to be registered and when is it going to be licensed? If the product is registered in Brazil, it has to be registered when it is imported. If the product is exempt of registration in Brazil, it's going to be licensed when it's imported. An example of main products that are registered: prebiotic, probiotic, and also other foods. And which are the licensed ones? The snacks, the pet shoes, the pet food, also additives, flavor, and other types of additives are also licensed. Now, requesting establishment and also the licensing of products, all of that is done in the system. You will get a login and a password, and you can add that information yourself in the SIG-CIF, in the Ministry of Agriculture website. Some of the fields have to be filled out, and some documents also need to be attached. The product registration will then have a previous analysis by a supervisor in the Ministry of Agriculture and needs to be approved. But the license, as soon as you add information and add the document, you already have a certification of a license. So once you have the registration certificate or the license certificate, you can already start the export process. So these are the documents for product registration: the product name, the category, if this is an ingredient, an additive, if this is a premix, a supplement, if it's a chewable product, what is the composition of the product, some technical data sheet, what is the purpose of use, if it is for adult dogs or for puppies, for cats. So you have to mention which animal is going to use that, how to use it, the guarantee levels. For the guarantee levels, they will be changing according to the type of products. So when you add the category of your product and the composition of your product and these levels of guarantee, you will see the parameters that you have to add, the minimum and the maximum of each parameter. Also, you will have to describe the manufacturing process and the flow chart. It's important that you add the time and the temperature of the process, because then we will be able to know which are the sanitary risks regarding that product. Also, data sheets, data safety sheets, stability tests that will confirm the validity of your product, the free sale certificate, the label that is used in the US, and in case of product registration, you have to submit the efficacy study. This can be done by the company itself, by outsourced companies, or that might be a bibliography check. But that, whether it's done by the company or by a bibliographic survey, you have to check, because if I am working on a product for a puppy, the study has to be regarding a puppy, and also the dose. If the indication is 5 ml, the study has to show the product being used at 5 ml if it's going to be efficient.
Also, regarding guarantee levels, you need to share the reports indicating that you have reached the minimum and the maximum levels. What about product licensing? The documentation required is the same: product name, category, composition, technical data sheets, the animal species, how to use it, guarantee levels, manufacturing process, flow chart, MSDS, stability test, pre-sale certificates, and the label in the country of origin. The difference is that for licensing product, you do not need to share effectiveness study data. All the documents, both for registration and for licensing products, must be presented with the sworn translation into Portuguese. Both are valid for 10 years, and then you need to renew it. And just as your establishment registration, everything must be up to date in the MAPA system. If there is any difference between what we have in the system and what is being delivered in Brazil, your product may be not accepted. It's very important that you enter this piece of information into the system. Product registration undergoes a pre-examination by the Ministry of Agriculture. So if you plan to export a product that requires product registration, please do update the information before you start the process, because a new certificate with the updated information takes some time to be ready.
de produtos de marca própria. Então, uma empresa brasileira, ela tem interesse em
So
fazer
let's say that a
produto nos Estados
Brazilian
Unidos.
company wants to
Procedimento,
have the
registro de
product
estabelecimento,
manufactured
registro de
in the
cadastro
US.
sobre produto.
So the
Exatamente o mesmo.
registration
O que vai mudar é
licensing
o
steps are the
rótulo,
same,
e aí
but
as
the
informações do
label
rótulo
will
vamos
be
trazer com
different.
vocês.
And that's what I'm going to share with you. So
Então,
for that
para o
specific
recebimento
case,
desse produto aqui no Brasil, a gente tem
so
duas opções de
for
rótulo. O rótulo
having this product
simplificado,
delivered
ele
here in
chega aqui no
Brazil, there are
Brasil,
two
chegando aqui
options.
no
A
Brasil, o seu
simplified
cliente ele tem que
label. So once the
fazer
product
uma
arrives in
aplicação de um
Brazil,
rótulo
it
completo,
will be
ou então você só
required
pode
that
mandar esse
there
rótulo
is an
completo e
application
chegar aqui no
either
Brasil,
for
seu
a
cliente
complete
já pode
label,
comercializar diretamente o seu
and
produto.
then your
O rótulo
Brazilian customer
simplificado,
can
esse
already
da direita
market
é
that
esse
product.
pequenininho,
The
que vem
simplified
o nome
label
do
is the
produto,
one on the
o número de
right-hand side, in
lote,
which we have the
a
product
data de
name, the
validade,
batch
essa data de
number,
validade obrigatoriamente
expiration
dia mês e ano, você
date,
não pode colocar
and
vale
this
2
should be
anos ou vale 5
presented
meses,
in
enfim, é dia, mês e
showing
ano, e
date,
os dados do
month, and
fabricante.
year,
Então, o nome
and
de
also
quem fabrica e o
the
endereço
name
completo.
of the manufacturer
Essa
and
é
complete
é a
address.
tabulagem para entrada aqui no Brasil. Ela pode
This
ser em
is
inglês,
the
pode ser em
label
português.
required for
O
having the
rótulo
product
completo, que é esse
delivered
da
here in Brazil. It
esquerda,
can be in
ele
Portuguese or in
obrigatoriamente
English.
ele
The
tem que estar
complete
em
label, which
português.
was
Eu tenho
shown
um modelo
on
aqui
the
em inglês,
left-hand
mas
side,
obrigatoriamente
should
todas essas
be
informações elas
in
devem estar em
Portuguese,
português.
although here in my example, it's
O
written
nome
in
do
English, but
produto,
just
a
so that you
categoria, se é
understand what
ingrediente, se é
kind
alimento
of
completo, se é
information is
alimento
required. So
específico, se
product
é
name,
suplemento,
category, purpose, composition,
para
guarantee
quem
levels, how
destinaram
to
esse
use
produto,
it,
então se é cão
storage
filhote, cão fêmea, gato
conditions.
adulto,
So
a
once again,
composição
for
desse produto,
what age
os níveis
range,
de
so if
garantia. Então,
puppies,
esses níveis de
adult,
garantia vão ser aqueles que
senior
foram mencionados
animals,
quando você fez o
also the
registro ou o
guarantee
cadastro do
levels.
produto.
There
A
should
frase
be the
produto
same
registrado no
information
Ministério da
provided in
Agricultura,
the system. So
sob o
the
número, aí vai,
registration
quando
number
você faz o registro, e quando você faz o
with the
cadastro,
Ministry
no
of
certificado ele
Agriculture and
vem um número.
Livestock.
Então você precisa
So once
mencionar
you
na sua
register your
rotulagem
product, you
esse
will
número de
receive a
registro ou esse número de
certificate,
cadastro,
and
o
that
número de
certificate
lote
you will
e a
find
data
the
de validade,
registration number.
novamente, dia, mês e
It
ano.
should
Não pode
also
colocar
display the
válido por
batch
3
number
anos,
and
válido por 6
expiration
meses.
date. You cannot just
Como a
have it
utilização, né, desse
best
produto,
for consumption
a
for the
forma de
next 2 years.
armazenamento, se
Also,
houver
how
duas
to
formas de
use it,
armazenamento, mencionar as
stored
duas. Então, por exemplo,
conditions.
às vezes é
If
sachê.
their
Então, eu tenho
product can
válido
be
por 3
stored
anos
in
e
two
depois eu tenho
ways. So,
aqui
for example,
após
let's say you have
aberto,
a
válido
sachet,
manter sob
and then it should
refrigeração
say,
durante
for
48
example,
horas, durante
if
24
after
horas.
opening
Então, aí
it,
você
it should
menciona
be
as
kept
duas
on the
formas de armazenamento.
refrigeration for 24 hours. That's
Fabricado
just an
por, o
example.
nome da empresa e o endereço. Importado
Manufactured
por, o
by
nome da
company
empresa, o
address,
telefone,
imported
o
by
CNPJ,
company
a
address,
frase produto
phone
importado,
number, and
peso
the
dele em
CNPJ,
quilos,
which is
gramas ou
the Brazilian
miligramas, se
tax
for algo
corporate
líquido,
tax
em
ID
quilos ou
number.
miligramas.
Also, it should say that
E
it's
tem
an
algumas
imported
frases que elas são
product and
obrigatórias
net
na
weight.
rotulagem.
And there are
Essas
some
frases, elas vão
mandatory
variar
phrases
de
that
acordo com o tipo
should
de
be
produto.
displayed
Então,
on
quando
the
for
label,
elaborar
and
esse
that
rótulo,
will
caso você já
vary
mande um
depending on the
rótulo completo
product.
para o Brasil, é
So
importante
if
que
you are
você
sending your
já veja quais
product
são as
with
frases
a complete
obrigatórias. Então, por
label,
exemplo,
please check
se eu vou
which are the
mandar um petisco aqui
mandatory
para o Brasil, tem
phrases.
a
So
frase
if
obrigatória, esse
it
produto não
is a
substitui o
treat,
alimento completo.
it should say
Se na composição do meu
this
produto
product
eu
does
tenho algum
not
ingrediente de origem
replace
animal,
a
eu tenho a frase obrigatória
complete
que esse produto é proibido
food
na alimentação de
product.
ruminantes. Então,
Or
de
also,
acordo com o tipo de
depending on the
produto,
product, should
tem
state, for
as
example,
frases que são
it's
obrigatórias na
forbidden
rotulagem.
for ruminants.
O
So
que
there are
muda caso seja
specific sentences depending on
uma
the
marca própria,
product.
né? Então, uma empresa aqui no
And
Brasil que
if
fez esse
there is a
produto com uma empresa
company
americana.
in
Ou
Brazil
não, os
that
dados do
asks
fabricante você vai
a
manter,
US
fabricado por
company
e o
to
endereço, e
manufacture,
o
you should
importado por
also
você vai
have
colocar para.
the name
Então,
of the
para a
manufacturer
empresa, e
and
aí você coloca
also
os dados dessa
the
empresa que
importer.
é responsável por
You
essa
should
marca.
have also that
Próximo
information.
slide.
Next slide, please.
Então, aqui um resumo, né, que já foi falado lá
So
no
this is
começo, aqui
just
fica só
to show
realmente
you a
descrito.
summary,
Até julho de
just
2030,
describing,
a
right?
gente tem as
So
duas
that
formas funcionando.
till
Então,
July of
quem já
2030, we
exportava para
will
o
have
Brasil
the
pode
two
continuar exportando
systems.
pelo
So
modelo
if you
antigo,
are
desde que
exporting to
sejam os
Brazil,
mesmos
if you're
clientes
already
e os
doing
mesmos
that, you can
produtos.
keep
Quem não
on using
exportava
the
para o Brasil e
old
vai começar a exportar
uh,
agora, não tem outra opção, tem que
model,
fazer
the
o
old
registro
requirement. But if
de
you're just
estabelecimento junto ao
starting, you
Ministério da
need
Agricultura e depois o
to
registro e cadastro desses produtos
register
junto
your
ao Ministério da
company. So you should
Agricultura.
have the establishment
Empresas que já
registration and also your
exportavam
product
no modelo
registration.
antigo, mas
For
querem
those who are already exporting, but want now to reach new clients, they also need to also
e vão ter sim que
uh,
fazer o registro, cadastro dos produtos também,
have the
tá?
new
Porque o certificado anterior
establishment
é válido somente
registration,
para aquelas empresas que
because the
tinham
old
o registro do selo aqui no
one
Brasil.
are valid only for
A
those
partir de
that
julho,
had
18 de
already
julho de
started the
2030,
process in
então,
Brazil.
esquece
Now,
o
from
sistema
July 8,
antigo, todas as
2030,
que desejam exportar para o Brasil,
any
obrigatoriamente terão que
company
ter
willing to
registro de
export
estabelecimento
to
junto ao
Brazil
MAPA,
should
o
have
registro e
the
cadastro de produtos
establishment
também
registration with the
registrados no
Ministry of
MAPA.
Agriculture, as
Então,
well as product
aquelas empresas que
registration with
hoje
the Ministry of
já
Agriculture.
exportam para o
So for
Brasil,
those
é
companies
importante que elas
that
já
already
comecem a
export to
providenciar a
Brazil, it's
documentação
very
para
important
ter
that
esse
you already
registro de
start to
estabelecimento, porque mais para frente, a partir de julho de
start to
2030,
gather the
isso vai ser
information,
obrigatório.
because
Então, não
starting
deixar para a
July
última hora, porque como
2030,
se
that
trata de
will be
sistema,
mandatory.
quando estiver próximo do vencimento, várias empresas vão estar entrando
And
no sistema,
also,
isso pode causar um congestionamento e
close
atrasar o
to
processo. Então,
2030,
para que
we
não
will
parem essas
see, we will
condições,
expect to
é
see
importante que essas empresas
many
também já comecem
companies
a se
trying to
movimentar.
access the system. So my recommendation to
Lembrando
you is
novamente
start to
que
working on the documents now.
cargas que chegarem com a documentação antiga a partir de dia 8
And
de julho de
shipments
2030,
arriving
elas
in
serão
Brazil
devolvidas
after
ou
July
então
8,
destruídas.
2030
Então, não
with
deixem para a última
outdated
hora para evitar esse tipo
documentation
de
will
problema.
be either returned or destroyed. And when she talked about the label, it's for also
Todos os
private
produtos,
label.
quando são importados pelo Brasil, eles precisam
So
vir
when
acompanhados de um certificado
Brazil
sanitário.
import
Então, é
products,
importante
well,
também
in
você
order to
verificar
have
que o
the
certificado
products
sanitário seja
delivered here,
utilizado
it's
para
important that
você
you
ver se
present a
o
sanitary or
estabelecimento
health
e o seu produto
certificate,
atendem a esses
so
requisitos.
that showing that your company and your product
Importante
meet
lembrar que
the
o Ministério da
Brazilian
Agricultura ele
requirements.
pode sim realizar
Also, bear in
fiscalizações dessas
mind
cargas que
that
chegam no
the
Brasil.
Ministry of
Não são todas
Agriculture
as cargas que
can
são fiscalizadas.
inspect
Essa
the
fiscalização
products
ela é
arriving
feita
in
de
Brazil,
forma
so the
aleatória e
shipments,
também quando ela
and
abre o
that's
container, não
done
são
at
todos os
random.
produtos
So
que são
once they
fiscalizados.
open a
É feita uma
container, they will
amostragem
not
e nessa
also
amostragem são feitas
get
análises.
samples from
Então, essas
every
análises elas têm
single
que bater com as informações que vocês colocaram
package.
no sistema.
And
Não pode
whatever
ter
they
divergência,
get,
porque se
the
houver
information
divergência,
should also
a sua
meet
carga pode ser
what you
bloqueada.
have entered
Importante
into the
lembrar que
Brazilian
esse novo
system.
decreto ele deixa
And
claro
with
que
this
a
new
responsabilidade
decree,
desses produtos aqui no
it
Brasil é tanto do
emphasizes
exportador
that
como do
both the
importador.
exporter and the importer both will be held accountable for that imported
Então, de
product.
forma resumida, como
So
que
just
funciona
as
o
a
processo de registro
summary,
de exportação aqui para o Brasil? Você vai
how
fazer o
does
registro de
that work?
estabelecimento,
So first
né?
you need to
Lembrando que é
obtain the
processo de
establishment
governo para
registration.
governo. Apresentem,
Once again,
apresentam
this is
esses três
done from
documentos
the US
para o
government
governo dos
to the
Estados Unidos.
Brazilian
O governo dos
government. So
Estados Unidos
you need
apresenta
to
para o Ministério da
present your
Agricultura.
documents
A
to
partir
the
daí vai ser
US
publicado no
government,
site do
and
Ministério
the
da
US
Agricultura
government will
o estabelecimento e
send
os
that
produtos que
to
estão
the
habilitados.
Brazilian
Você vai
government.
receber um login e uma senha. Com esse
So you
login e
will
senha,
then
você
receive a
consegue
login
fazer o
and a
registro de
password that
produtos
will
ou
allow you
cadastro dos
to
produtos.
then work on
Lembrando
your
que o registro de
product
produtos passa
registration
por uma
or
análise prévia
product
do Ministério da
licensing.
Agricultura.
Once
Então, é
again,
um
in
pouquinho mais
order to obtain
demorado.
a
O cadastro,
license,
você já
you
tem de
for a
imediato o certificado
registration,
de cadastro.
the process is
A partir
longer
daí,
than
você
just to obtain
está
a
apto a
product
exportar para
license.
o Brasil, desde que você
After
atenda
that,
todos os
then
requisitos
your
que constam tanto do
company will
estabelecimento
be
como dos
allowed to
produtos que constam no
export
certificado sanitário.
your products to Brazil. But remember that you also should present a sanitary or
Eu vou
health
deixar com o pessoal
certificate.
da River Global o decreto
I
2021, caso
will
vocês
share this
queiram buscar
decree
o
with the
produto, ele
River
está em
Global
português.
team,
Também o
but I
texto
should
circular
say that it's in
21 também está em
Português.
português.
I will
Ele
also
traz alguns
share
esclarecimentos a
Circular
respeito da
Letter
legislação.
21 from
Tem
2025 that
procedimento
presents
oficial
some
emitido
further
pelos Estados
information
Unidos, ele
about
está
the
todo em
decree.
inglês, e
There's
ele
also
mostra
an
passo a
official
passo o
procedure
registro do
issued by the
estabelecimento e o registro
USDA,
do produto.
in which they share
Inclusive com
step-by-step
print das telas do
instructions
sistema do Ministério da
for you
Agricultura. Então,
to
facilita
obtain the
bastante na hora que você
establishment
vai
registration
fazer o
and
registro ou
product
cadastro desses
registration or
produtos.
licensing,
E também
which
há
is
um
very helpful.
Excel
It's in
já em
English.
inglês para vocês poderem
There's
preencher,
also the Excel
que é um dos documentos
spreadsheet
exigidos para
for
registro de
requesting
estabelecimento estrangeiro.
establishment registration. This is
Muito
done
obrigada.
also in English. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much for being here. That was a very valuable overview of the new important requirements and the step companies need to follow to remain compliant when exporting pet food and related products to Brazil. To lead the final part of the session, I would like to call Guilherme, who will moderate the final discussion with Andrea, Bruno, and Dana, and who will talk a little bit about other points as well. As a reminder, participants may submit their questions through the chat or the Q&A tool. We will try to address as many questions as possible within the time frame available. Guilherme, now I hand over to you, please.
First of all, thank you, Gio, for the introduction. We provide an export guide for all PFI members. So PFI have an updated document about all the concerns you must have about the Brazilian regulation. So that's it. About moving to previously. Now moving to the U.S. pet food suppliers catalog. This is an initiative we are developing to better connect U.S. suppliers with potential buyers and partners in Brazil. The idea is to create a simple catalog featuring U.S. companies that are interested in the Brazilian market, including basic information about their company, product categories, and contact details. After the catalog is prepared, we plan to share it with selected Brazilian companies such as importers, distributors, retailers, and other potential buyers, so they can better understand what U.S. suppliers have to offer and identify possible business opportunities. At this first stage, we are only collecting basic information and assessing our interest in being included. For that reason, we'll share a short form with you. You can get a QR code, but we'll provide the link itself on the chat too. If your company is interested in participating, please complete the form and we will follow up with any additional steps or information needed. Okay. So now, sorry about that. So now we have another poll to talk about what did you thought about the webinar. So you can see that in your screen right now. We have a few moments to respond that, please. So we have more seconds. 2 more seconds. Just 10 more seconds and we'll end this call. Okay. Okay. Thank you all for the responses. So can you pass the slide, please? So just a reminder about the suppliers catalog. If you have any questions about that, we can answer that too. The link is also on the chat.
Gui, can we explain a bit about how River might use the catalog, where you might be taking that?
Of course. We participate here in Brazil in a lot of trade shows, and we do trade services. So we show PFI how are the services of PFI here in Brazil, how can we support them, and if there's any buyer here in Brazil as a distributor, as an importer that is interested in US pet food, they can we will be able for them to share with them about your pet food or your ingredient, so your treat. So our job here is to expand your business here to Brazil and be able to share with companies that are interested and they don't know much about the United States pet food suppliers. Okay. If you have any doubts about that, you can ask us, and we will be happy to help you. Can you press the slide, please? So now is the time for you to do any questions you may have. So we will open the section about the Q&A section. Also, you can put any doubt you have on the chat, okay? So Andrea and Bruno will be able to help us with any any questions you have. So here's one question. If a company has already exported to Brazil before, can it continue using its current registrations until 2030, or does it need to start a new process now? If you want me to repeat.
Ela pode continuar exportando até 2030,
The
desde que
company
seja para a
can
mesma
export
empresa
up
os
to
mesmos produtos.
2030
Ela
as
não
long
consegue
as
exportar novos
it's the
produtos,
same
porque não está
products
mais
and to the
permitido
same
que
company.
essa
They
empresa do
cannot
Brasil
export new
realize o
products
registro
because this
cadastro de novos
company no
produtos.
longer can register new products in
Você
Brazil,
tem alguma
can
coisa para
license
acrescentar,
these new
Bruno?
products in Brazil. Do you have anything to add, Bruno?
Tá sem som.
Yes. Yes.
Vocês estão me ouvindo?
Can you hear me? He says.
Yes, yes.
Estão me ouvindo?
And that maybe your voice channel is the different one. Sorry. Keep
Tá me
going,
ouvindo?
Bruno.
Ah, tá.
Ok.
Ok.
A pergunta foi com ou, né? Então, na verdade, tem que fazer os dois. Ela
Well,
vai
the question is
continuar
that you have to do
exportando
both.
o
So
produto que ela
the
já
company
registrou,
has to
que o
keep on
importador já registrou, e ela tem que correr
working
atrás
with the
também
product that
já
the importer has
de
already
registrar o estabelecimento no Brasil e
licensed,
registrar
and
depois no Brasil.
also the person has
Pela
or the company
fabricação.
has
Não
to
adianta esperar até 2030, porque isso vai
register
um
the
tempo
company,
que
the
a
new
Andrea
product with
mencionou
the
ali na
foreign
explicação dela.
manufacturers,
Então, o
because
interessante
Andrea
é que faça o quanto
explained it.
antes
So you
o
should
registro
do
do
it
estabelecimento
as soon
estrangeiro
as
e o
possible
registro do produto,
with
do
the
cadastro do
foreign
produto.
establishment and also with the license of the new
Thank
product.
you, Bruno. Do you all have any more questions? Dana, if you want to say something, be my guest.
I
Sorry.
might have a question, actually.
Okay.
So if the product undergoes any changes, formulaic changes during this transition period, would the company have to re-register this product, and then that new product would then have to be registered under the new requirements? Is that correct?
Posso responder? Se
I can
você
answer
hoje
that.
o Ministério do Brasil
Today,
deixa
Brazilian
você alterar
Ministry
produto que já
allows
está
you
registrado
to
pelo
change a
importador. Você
product
pode
that is
alterar
already
já,
registered
tá?
by the
Ele
importer.
não
You
vai
can
comparar
change it
com
now.
o
It will
registro
not
novo do
compare it
estabelecimento
to the
estrangeiro.
new
Então,
registration of the
vão ser dois
foreign
processos
establishment.
paralelos
Here
e
you will have
separados,
two
sem comparação.
simultaneous processes. They will not have a comparison.
Thank you, Bruno. Andrea, I don't know if you hear Bruno, but if you have anything else you want to add about that?
Não, é isso. Alteração é permitido. O que não é permitido são novos
That's
registros.
right. Changes are allowed, but
Perfect,
no
thank you.
new
So
registrations
we have
are
one question
allowed.
here. Dana, is all right? Do you have any more questions?
That answers my question. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So I have another question here. What are the most common mistakes US companies make when trying to export pet food or treats to Brazil? Andrea, if you want me to repeat, don't worry.
Eu não tenho acesso a esses erros, tá?
I do not have
É,
access to
o
that
Ministério
type
da
of
Agricultura, ele
mistakes.
divide
The
praticamente
Ministry
das
of
indústrias os erros
Agriculture does not
das
share with us
empresas, né?
the company's mistakes,
Mas a gente ouve falar que
but
é a questão da
we
documentação
usually
não
hear that it
completa,
has to do with
a falta de
incomplete
informações
documentation or
e a
lack of
falta
information,
do registro
and the lack
de estabelecimento
of
está ok,
establishment
né? A
registration, and
sanidade
that
tem que
might
estar
be
ok,
okay, but sometimes
o
the
documento tem que
establishment
estar
registration is
incompleto,
okay,
né?
but
Mas
the
eu não
sanitary
tenho
certificate is not
acesso na
okay, but it's like
prática a
incomplete
essas informações do
documentation, but
Ministério da
I do
Agricultura.
not have real access to that information coming
Perfect,
from
Bruno,
the
thank you.
Ministry of
Andrea, if you
Agriculture.
want to add something about, if you ever seen any mistakes that were made by US suppliers? Oh, there's another question in the chat too. But Andrea, first, if you want to add something about the Bruno answer, what Bruno had to answer before.
Em relação à liberação, realmente eu não tenho nada a complementar. O que eu
Yes,
sei em relação
about the
a
approval,
registro de
I have
produto,
nothing to
e
add.
aí
What I
uma
know
grande
about
dificuldade e
product
que atrasa o
registration,
processo é a
and
apresentação
one
dos
thing that
estudos
will delay the
de forma
process is
incorreta.
submitting
Se não for
studies
direto para
in the
expresso, ou
incorrect
então se não for
fashion.
na dosagem
If
indicada.
it's not
Então,
in the
em registro de
indicated
produto é isso.
dose
Agora, na
or the
liberação
not
da
right
carga, eu
species,
também não saberia te
but
dizer.
in the approval of the shipment, I cannot tell you
Okay,
either.
perfect. Thank you. So Pam made a question here. Thank you for the question, Pam. So Andrea, is the company an address for the manufacturer by on the label, the company responsible for the product in the USA? Sorry. And yet the address of the, in example, the address of the corporate office, not the manufacturing facility, correct? Sorry.
O endereço que vai do fabricante é o endereço que consta no certificado de registro de estabelecimento
The
estrangeiro.
address, it has to be the one that is in the certificate of the foreign establishment,
Que é do fabricante, não é
which is
do
from the
proprietário. Se
manufacturer.
for
It's
diferente
not the
do
owner,
fabricante, tá?
if it's different from
Então,
the
na
manufacturer.
rotulagem
So
é a
in the label,
rastreabilidade.
you need to have
Então, o Ministério da
traceability.
Agricultura ele quer saber de
The
onde foi
Ministry of
fabricado e
Agriculture
nem
needs
não
to know
quem é o
where this
proprietário.
was manufactured, not who is the
Perfect,
owner.
thank you. Pam, if you have any other question, if everything is all right with the answer, you can ask anything else, okay? Thank you again for the question. So I have another question here too. Bruno, for companies exporting ingredients for pet food manufacturing, are there any additional regulatory requirements or compliance challenges compared to finished pet food products? Are there specific ingredient categories that typically receive greater scrutiny for MAPA during the registration or import process?
Não é diferente do pet food, de importar o pet food,
It's
mas
not different
os
from
ingredientes
importing
de
pet
origem
food,
animal,
but
eles recebem
animal
uma atenção
origin
maior do que os
ingredients
ingredientes de
require
origem
greater
vegetal e
attention
mineral,
than
né?
mineral and
Então, o
vegetable
Ministério ele pede
origin
o registro dos
products.
ingredientes
So
de
the
origem
ministry
animal,
requires
né, por questões
the
sanitárias,
registration of animal
enquanto os
ingredient
outros
products
ingredientes de
because
outras
of
fontes
sanitary matters, while
eles têm
other
toda uma
source
papelada
ingredients
aqui no Brasil,
are
menos
easier to come
burocracia,
into Brazil.
tá?
There is less
Mas é mais a
bureaucracy,
questão do certificado sanitário,
but
né?
it's
E
more
também
related to sanitary
nós
certificates,
temos
and
acordos
we also have
entre
an
o Brasil e os Estados
agreement
Unidos, né?
of sanitary
Então,
certificates between Brazil and the
o
US.
ingrediente vindo dos Estados Unidos, ele tem que
So
cumprir
if the
com os
ingredient comes
fatores
from the
de
US, it
sanitário
has
que
to
estão no
meet
nosso
the
acordo.
sanitary requirements that are
Mas é só,
in the agreement of
não é
these
nada muito
countries.
burocrático, não. É
But it's
só
not
a
too
questão do certificado
bureaucratic.
sanitário
It's just a
e do
matter of having
registro.
this
Então, no
sanitary
máximo, o MAPA é
certification
uma
and
avaliação
the
do Ministério
registration,
da
and
Agricultura,
it has to be
enquanto os outros
pre-evaluated
ingredientes de
by the
outras
Ministry of
origens,
Agriculture.
que é o
But
que o Ministério
ingredients of other
aprova e depois
origins,
ele
the
verifica
ministry will
de
approve
onde
it and
tiraram as
then
informações,
it will
né? Então,
audit
ingredient de
the
origem animal, não. Eles
information.
analisam
Not for animal origin,
o
though. For
dossiê e
animal
depois
origin, they
autorizam.
will analyze
Já os
the
outros, as outras
documentation and then
origens,
authorize
eles
it. But it's
autorizam
if
e
it is
depois
from other
verificam.
origins, it will authorize it and then analyze it.
Perfect. Thank you, Bruno. Andrea, if you want to add something about that too. No, perfect. So, are there any other questions you want to make? Dana, if you have anything else, or any of the attendees too. So, thank you all about, next slide, please. So thank you all for your presence here. We are happy to support, and PFI is also happy to support about everything we can help with for you about the Brazilian regulatory and also the updates. So we are able. You can check about the export guide with Dana. I think Dana can help you with that. And I think that's it. Thank you guys for Gio, if you want to talk about talk anything more. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you, Gui. I just wanted to thank you once again, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Dana, for the excellent discussion we had. And thank you for answering the questions from our audience. Before we close, I would like to invite, sorry, on behalf of Pet Food Institute, I would like to thank everyone once again for joining us today. Once again, I would like to let you know that the recording will be made available to all participants and in the coming days. Should you have any additional questions or wish to learn more, let us know. Please visit pfibrazil.com.br or contact us at pfi@riverglobal.net. Thank you very much for your participation, and we hope to see you in the next pet food event. Thank you and see you soon.